Welcome to another edition of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff, and happy Cinco de Mayo for those who celebrate. And of course, we know that in Mexico, it's not even a real holiday. So I think it's just another
Right.
excuse for St. Patrick's Day type drinking binge,
Yeah.
while eating. Yeah.
What?
But
See you at 5?
yeah, yeah, right. It's just, and we don't need much of an excuse.
No.
Anyway, thank you to our listeners for tuning in, subscribing. And if you enjoy us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and leave us a comment, because we always like to hear what you're thinking and how we can improve and what maybe we can include in the next edition of Exit Philosophy. So here we are. We've been waiting for this NHL moment with the Habs, my Habs, facing your Sabres. And you're not like a front runner. You've been a Sabres fan your whole life, living down in that area in the Niagara region.
Oh my God.
But what are we going to put on this? Is $20 sound good?
Absolutely. I'm in. Yeah, it's
All
pretty.
right.
Actually, it's pretty even too, I think.
I mean it's not like playing golf. There's no handicap. There's no strokes being given. But our goalie is better than your goalie, I think.
Well, we'll see about that. But I mean, that's you can't argue his performance. That's for sure. He's been outstanding.
So just in terms of the Blue Jays not playing that well, this is one of those classic flying under the radar moments for a team that's trying to find itself. And we'll talk about how far they've come in sort of turning things around and the reasons for it. But, you think about it. You got the NHL playoffs. First round is always the best, compelling upsets. And I think there were 4-4 with favorites and underdogs in the series. So that was perfect. NBA playoffs, Raptors just got knocked out in a game 7, which was unexpected. And then, of course, the Maple Leafs, who seem to be making every organization look good in comparison. They hired John Chayka, who has left the NHL the last time in disgrace from the Arizona, whatever they were.
Coyotes, yes.
Coyotes.
Yes.
And then Matt Sundin, who everyone thought was going to have a more significant role when he came back, when he was being announced. But everybody's got an opinion on it. What's your opinion on the direction the Leafs are headed?
Well, I think everybody's got a right to question it. It's it's kind of feels like the moves you make when you're a second tier, outfit. It's like the Pirates need to take a chance on somebody and, hopefully get one of the better GMs that's, kind of in the bargain bin these days. The Toronto Maple Leafs don't usually shop in that part of town. So the fact that they're, going after Chayka is just very unusual. You would think they'd be, looking at, loftier goals for what they can get at that point. So it reeks to me of Mr. Pelly trying to be the smartest guy in the room type thing. Watch what I do here. I'll hire this brilliant guy and I'll look good type thing. It just seems like off the surface seems like a very strange hire. To be honest with you, not to get too deep into the weeds, but it's reminiscent, I think, a little bit of where the Jays went through when the new regime came into town, and you've got an inexperienced, maybe, unrecognized guy as GM, and obviously they suffered some significant PR hits on the way through the journey. So who knows how it turns out, right? You never know. We'll see what happens when they start making moves, but a curious hire, no doubt.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing about how when Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins came in, it was a similar reception. I mean, my gauge is Steve Simmons and Rosie.
Me too.
If they're questioning the moves and being really tough on it, then it's something to think about. And the way that Chayka handled it, reading off a card as address instead of a sincere opening remark, and he knew what the questions were going to be, so he could have handled that without cue cards.
Well, I think I have no problem with him writing down a statement. I think, you want to present yourself well. He hasn't done it in a while. I totally get that. And although the contrast with Matt's, where Matt's clearly just spoke from the heart, was very interesting. It's your inability to answer on the fly, to answer those questions and be prepared for what's coming. And I don't know about you. Well, I do know. When I watch these things, I always watch them with a PR bent and what's going on behind the scenes, and how guys are prepared, not prepared, or what. The people just look at Simmons and they criticize and they say this. But why do media approach something a certain way? Why do they ask the question that way? It tells you what the relationship already is, or the opinion. There's just always more to the story. And I like thinking beyond just, the surface stuff. Oh, what a question. There's a reason you ask the question, and a reason you ask it in the way you ask it. And unfortunately, a reason they answer it the way they answer it, which was really poor. Really
poor. It's funny because we talk about Ross Atkins and the comparison in terms of handling the media, handling press conference. You were there for his first press conference in, I guess, the winter of 2015-16. And I was there watching, but you were the PR at the time. And then later on, by the time I left in 2022, he had come a long way, but still had that sort of tentative approach to answering questions spontaneously. And right. It's something that's very difficult to overcome if it's not in your DNA. And hopefully Chayka can get better at it, but he's not going to survive if the team is bad. And right. He is bad at answering spontaneously.
Right. It's going to be an interesting journey, that's for sure. And one, maybe the criticism is they didn't need to take. You're the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're not the Arizona Coyotes.
Right. Yeah. But the question that Steve Simmons asked that I think a lot of people have already seen, and if you haven't, look it up, is as a columnist, I don't think I would have phrased it that way.
Correct. But, maybe.
But you could have got to the same point without sort of his family being in the room and having to listen to this.
It was tough. It was tough. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Before we get on again to the Blue Jays road trip and what they've been doing, I just want to give a shout out and a tribute to John Sterling, who passed away on the weekend, I think.
Yeah.
And just that I worked with him a long time. You have known him a long time. I remember when he was in and he had a unique delivery, unique style. Not everybody loved it, but every time he would do this shtick, I would smile, and he was, I think in 82, he joined the Braves and then worked with them till 88. And so we shared a spring training facility, the Expos and the Braves in West Palm Beach. And I got to know him there. Then with the Yankees, when I came over to write in 95, he was there, got to know him there. But where I really got to know him is that as a PR guy, I would part of my habit on the road was to, for one inning every game, go sit in the visitors' radio booth or the other team's radio booth and get to know the guys. And if they needed anything about the Expos, then I would help them out. I'd be there. And they liked it, and I think it really helped. But that being said, that's where I got to know what a genuinely nice guy John Sterling was.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, as you know, I grew up a Yankee fan, and John was a part of my daily life for a long time. Listening to his broadcasts, I just, got great joy out of his joy for the game. And then, of course, getting to know him like you did. I often would do what you did, too. I'd always love to go in and sit with the visiting TV or radio and just, sit in just to get a different perspective. I loved the characters of the game. I love the personalities. That's what makes baseball so special, Griff. there's so much more than just the players on the fields. Like the broadcasters are larger than life half the time. Look at our own broadcasters and how Buck is revered, and Tom and Jerry, and now obviously Ann and Joe. But they're great personalities, and they bring so many stories and the game to life. And I just love spending time with or even you guys, the writers, whatever. There's just so many characters and stories in the game. I did the same, and John was a character. There's no question.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, I think part of the reason was that in the radio booth, when you go sit in a radio booth, you're bathed in positive vibes. When you're sitting in the press box with the writers, and I include myself, you're surrounded by sarcasm and negative thoughts, and that was me. I'll admit it, but you can be negative.
I loved them all equally, though. I love them all equally. There's just great joy and sarcasm.
Anyway, rest in peace, John Sterling.
Yeah, rest in peace. I'm not sure you get that the same way with other sports, but yes, he was a major figure in a major market. So rest in peace is correct. I love John.
Yeah. Amen. Now we'll go back to we'll get into the Blue Jays situation, and they're currently on the road trip as we record. They lost in the Trop, so they're 2-3 on the road trip as we speak. But it's been they haven't lost a series, and they haven't yet lost this Rays series, but they're won 3 series in a row, then split in Minneapolis. But the Trop is a different story. I mean, it's crazy to think about the history. And they didn't play well. They spent last season, the Rays did, playing at Steinbrenner Field.
Yep.
And now they're back in the Trop, and I don't even know what the attendance was in that game. Yeah. They spent an awful lot of money to get back in a dump. And there's some people who like it, but most people think it's like one of the 2 or 3 worst stadiums in baseball.
The only thing I'll say positively, and most people don't get to know this, I really love working there. It's the clubhouse, to get to the press box. The press box is nice, and it's very bright in there. Outside of that, it's a shitty ballpark, but working in it is really nice. It's what you call the opposite of Fenway. Fenway's a great park and it's shitty to work in.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's a legendary park. Well, the Trop is not.
Right.
So it goes back to when the Rays first turned it around and they went to the World Series, and they had they had never finished above 500, but from that moment on, the Jays just can't do anything there. I have a theory on it, but what's your idea about why the Jays play so poorly?
Wow, a theory on why they play. I always think, I think historically they would nickel and dime you, and the pitching's always been good enough to keep them in games, right? So they'd always just kind of small ball you a little bit and then get one big hit from random first baseman that's having a great year. You know what I mean? Pena, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time I do remember when we did turn it around was clearly in 2015 when we were the best team in baseball. And that did turn around because we were just significantly better than them. But I don't know. I think maybe the fact that, let me guess your theories about the team being in Dunedin and all the non-roster players that show up and make it a country club for.
Yeah, that was pretty apparent on the Monday night game, but it's
always like that
forever. It's been the same forever.
You get the rehab guys, and you get all the back in their spring training vibes. I don't know. I don't know if I have probably as good a theory as yours. What is yours?
Well, mine involves Dunedin. It involves the number of, even the manager who doesn't stay at the hotel, stays with his family when he's down there. They might play a little golf in the morning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys not staying at the hotel. And the team, Mark Shapiro, encouraged players to buy homes in the area because that was part of the selling point to the county is you chip in money for our Pleasure Palace player development complex, and you're going to see how many people move into the area and spend their money, and they're making good money. And so it'll be an influx of the type of people you want living in your county. So all these people who live down there and don't stay at the hotel, and it's a great hotel near the ballpark.
Oh, it's fantastic.
St. Pete. But I just think that the focus is not there. What this team and many teams in baseball build themselves around is the camaraderie in the clubhouse, the closeness away from the park. That's why sometimes you and I believe that road trips are a good alternative if you're not going well, because you go to Minneapolis, you go to the West Coast, you're together more than you are at home. And since the Tampa Bay area is home, they're not together as much. It's a different type of road trip. And as you said, they nickel and dime you. But the Blue Jays should not be bothered by that because their defense has improved so much that it shouldn't be a problem. But when Kevin Kiermaier was there, when all the guys that you're talking about were there, it was an issue. And I think it continued to be an issue. And we'll see. One game does not a season make in the Trop. So we'll see if they can turn it around. But they did not play very well in game one of the series.
Yeah. It looked like so many other games that we've been a part of. There's no doubt. There's certainly a vibe that gets into the psyche. I just remember being there, and you just, whether it was Cito or Gibby, and they're just like, what is it with this place? It's just a vibe there.
There's a lot of memories over the years. And I gave you the challenge of finding two memories that stand out of the Trop and the Jays and you being there. Could you come up with two? I came up with two.
Yeah. I mean, there's generally, I'll give you three quick ones. I think for me, and this is just a personal memory. I can give you a whole bunch, I suppose. My first real challenge as a PR guy was going through a PED issue with our third baseman at the time, Troy Gloss, and that was a big moment for both him and for me. And I won't get into the details. I could do that on another podcast, I suppose, and how that all came to be, and dealing with agents and management and player. And that was a real big moment especially for him and for me, and just and that was in the Trop. We had to deal with it at that when it all broke. We talk more about that another day. Jay Happ situation when he got hit was at the Trop. That was a very scary moment when he got hit in the head with the comebacker. Just that kind of thing was just, it's just doesn't leave your brain. That was such a frightening moment. And thankfully he ended up being okay. I guess two quick ones on a positive note. I remember Mark Burley giving up 7 runs early in a ball game.
Oh yeah,
Gibby leaving him in, and he went 6 or 7, shut them down, and we came back at 1-8-7. We were down 7-0, and it was a typical Mark Burley. 0 runs or 7 didn't faze him. It was one of the most impressive things I ever saw. But I think for me, sorry I gave you more, but I think for me the most indelible memories I have are being in that equipment room underneath the stands. I'd go down in the 8th or 9th inning to get ready and prepared for the media and whatever we're doing. And it was always a tight game. And just the TV was on delay, so you could hear the crowd in the background, and you knew what was coming, and you could hear the cheers of an inevitable walk-off loss. It was just, and you're just like, oh my God. And you turn the TVs off and everybody's angry. But being under the stands, listening to the crowd 10 seconds before you saw it on the TV, and often how it turned negative on you was just it's the typical House of Horrors feeling that we had there. It was.
That's a perfect one right there. I thought you would include as a positive one. Were you there when John Gibbons put his arm around Mooney Kawasaki, and they had to option him out. And he gave the speech about, we're sending him out, and everybody. It was
no, I was not on that trip apparently. So
because I wasn't in the clubhouse for that, but I heard about it, and thought if you were in there, that would have stood out. So,
no, yeah, it would have stood out for sure.
What about you? My first one is a play that I wrote a column off of, and it involved John McDonald and just the kind of player that John McDonald was. It was, I think Nelson Cruz hit the ball, and Adam Lind was playing left field, went back to the fence, and he had his back against the fence, and he turned and looked up, and the ball wasn't there. The ball hit a technical ring and was dropping into short left field, like not short, regular left field.
Yeah.
And John McDonald turned his back as soon as the ball hit and was racing towards the left field fence and caught it like a receiver over his head before it hit the ground. And I went to him after it. I said, like, who the hell makes that play? Who thinks that the ball may hit the ring and come down in fair territory? And he said that he was playing as a bench player with the Indians, and Omar Vizquel did exactly the same thing. And he said, every time a ball goes up, that's the first thing I think of. And I went, this is why this guy should be a manager someday, And
he's also aware who his left fielder was that day.
Yeah, good point. But the other one was just a moment. It was before a game, and Kevin Cash had been a player, not a very good player with the Blue Jays organization, but always available, always a good guy as a backup catcher. And so we came to the Trop after, I think Cash had already been a coach in Cleveland for Terry Francona. And we walked out before batting practice, and he was just sitting there in the camera bay. And he was waiting for John Gibbons because he was looking for a job. He didn't have a job. He wanted to be anything, a scout, a coach. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, well, this isn't going to happen. He's got no connection really with other than having been a bad player with the Jays. And the next thing I know, he's in the Rays dugout and he becomes a manager. And now he's one of the best managers consistently one of the best managers in the American League in Major League Baseball. And that always stood out to me because that had to be 14 years ago. And I still remember exactly the moment of him sitting there. And he's a great guy, great manager, but that's a memory of the Trop that I have, and the rest of them you can wash. If you're a Jays fan, you can just wash them, right. Including the playoffs in 2020 where just nothing went right,
Yeah.
I think Bo Bichette made 2 errors in the same game, and it was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, that was Ryu, right? And some of the bullpen stuff.
Yeah, they got a couple more games. By the time you're listening, they may be home already. But let's get on to something more positive for the Blue Jays, and that's reasons. Let's talk about reasons for the Blue Jays mini turnaround. And obviously they've been hurt by injuries over the time, but I want to ask you about 2 that seem pretty obvious. Is the change in the bullpen with Louis Varland becoming the closer, and then the change in batting stance of Kaz Okamoto and how he seems to have turned things around and becoming, and it's a small sample size, but becoming a true middle of the order threat as a RBI guy behind Vlad, and if Barger comes back, but we'll get into that. But which of those or both do you think are most important to the Jays turnaround? Is Varland at the back end of the bullpen, or Okamoto being able to handle the adjustments that he needed, including going back in the box and closer to the plate? Which do you think is more important?
I think for for the long run, it's Okamoto. I think he has a greater impact on what they're trying to accomplish. You're talking 4 or 5 ABs a game, and they're kind of missing right now that threat. I mean, if you look at the lineup that's been running out there lately, although Pinago has been great, but Sanchez hitting 4th, Sosa 5th. I mean, that's not going to scare anybody, but you get Okamoto delivering and Vladdy in there, and I think that's been more important to them currently. They're both equal. They're both important. But I think you could probably still win some games with other guys, pitching and getting by. But I think Okamoto's just had a great impact, and that's they're going to need him to do anything significant. So I'll go with the third baseman. So he's been great.
You mentioned the right fielder.
Yeah.
And to me, he smiles a lot and he's likable, but he plays right field like one of those inflatable guys at a used car lot, And it's like he's looking at his glove like he can't believe that it's there. And,
yeah.
And he takes like sort of GPS on steroid routes to ball.
Yeah, it's a problem. The defense needs some guys back because it's not very good right now, other than 2 spots.
Yeah,
maybe
but
3.
If I was going to gauge those two and which has been more important, and it's a mini turnaround. It's not a huge turnaround. There's still, as we speak, 3 games under 500. But it's the possibility is there for fans to be optimistic at this point because of what's happening. And the thing that I think, and I agree with you on that, I think the more important is the emergence of the third baseman of Kaz. Because, Bo Bichette, you're not looking at Bo Bichette with the Mets, you're looking at Bo Bichette, what he provided and what he had the ability to provide with. Jeez.
It must be important.
Yeah. We can edit that out, I hope. Yeah. So his ability to provide protection in the middle of the order, and we have said on Exit Philosophy we didn't think he was a middle of the order hitter, but that's the guy who stood away from the plate and too far up in the box and was striking out way too much and not making exit velocity that counted. Right. And so the Varland thing is a great. I mean, he was AL reliever of the month for March, April. Yeah, and that is a tremendous accomplishment. But they have more behind Varland in the bullpen than the lineup has behind Okamoto.
Right.
And so the importance of Varland is great for the moment. I don't see him like falling off. So all that being said, do you believe that with Varland at the back and with Tyler Rogers in some sort of a setup role, hold role, he loves those holds. I think he's at 158 career right now, and he wants to reach 200.
He probably declined the 9th inning, right?
Yeah.
158.
And with Jeff Hoffman sort of not being as much of a high wire act when he's pitching the 7th or 8th, because even if he gives up a run, you got a chance to come back and score again. Do you think that this bullpen as constructed is better than last year's?
I think it's similar. I think if Varland is going to do what he's doing, maybe I'll give you the edge to this bullpen right now. But you still got Fisher's been not quite what he was. You got Tommy Nance still doing what Tommy Nance does out there. I like Fluharty. I think it's fine. I think it's good enough. And like I said with the bullpen, Griff, that if they're in the mix, they're going to improve it. I think depending on what we get from Garcia, which I don't think anybody knows. I mean, he's on the way back finally, but you just don't know. It's been quite a while since he's been around. I don't think you can just expect him to walk in and be that high leverage guy. And maybe he doesn't need to be, but I think it's a similar bullpen, slight edge to this year, and a work in progress like most bullpens. I think it's going to be a trade deadline gymnastics if they're in the race and see what they can acquire.
Yeah, the thing about the bullpen and Jimmy Garcia coming, he's ready to start throwing bullpens, but we've heard that before. You talk about the trade deadline, and maybe at the trade deadline, it's an old trick with teams that don't make moves. It's like the equivalent. Bringing Jimmy Garcia back at this point of the season is the equivalent of making a trade. Yeah. We've heard that so many times. But even if he throws 2 or 3 effective, healthy bullpen sessions, he's not eligible because he's on the 60-day IL. He's not eligible till, I believe, May 24th. So we're still looking at 3 more weeks before he can even think of being added to the bullpen. But it is a concern the way that Braden Fisher hasn't been lights out. Mason Fluharty against right-handed hitters is being torched. And so if it's not one thing, it's another. It's like plugging the dike and another leak comes up somewhere else, So Springer, he's back in the lineup after breaking his toe and then ridiculously, being hit on the top of the same toe and knocking off the Velcro protection. That is crazy.
It was crazy.
But he's apparently going to be back. And which brings me to a question of, is it being underrated, the return to the rotation of Trey Yesavage?
Not the way he's pitched. No, it's really important. I think without that third guy, it gets a little dicey. No, I think his return has been huge. Let's see. I mean, his second outing, he had good results, but he wasn't sharp early. That's for sure. He had to dance around some things, and his command wasn't great. But if they can get him to be somewhat close to what he was last year, I mean, you show me a better 3 guys, right? Everybody kind of gets focused on their own team sometimes and what they do and don't have. And, you're scrambling, who are we going to throw? We got Lauer. It was Barrios back. But most teams don't have 3 guys like that either. So that's the real advantage if Trey's back.
The thing that we'll never know is, they can talk about how smart they are at the end of the season. If Yesavage is still healthy and pitching, they can say, because we were blessed by the fact that he missed the first month and only came back. Now he's got plenty of bullets left. Well, we never know whether that's true or not because he didn't pitch those games. Right. I mean, this guy's a horse. He's 22, 23 years old, and he's a horse. Who knows whether he could handle it or not. But if it works out for them, they'll be talking that. I would say, it was part of our strategy to save him, for him to report to spring training and say his shoulder felt a little wonky.
Yeah. Well, it was always their plan, right? Yeah. Limit the inning. So we'll see. But good start, that's for sure. You got to be encouraged before the rotation's at. Okay,
now question now. I sense, and I don't like that the vibe around the team seems to have changed, and not for the better. I mean, you had so much magic in 2025. You had situations where guys that weren't expected to contributed, where guys stepped up like Eric Lauer and were happy. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And Tyler Heineman is a backup catcher. People on Sportsnet were touting him as the acknowledged best backup catcher in baseball, which, like, what?
Who said that, right? Right.
But, and it just seems like once you get to the World Series, and maybe this is part of how difficult it is to repeat, that the magic has been replaced by a little bit of selfishness. And I'm pointing to guys like Eric Lauer, and we've documented that. He lost in arbitration. He complained about an opener for him. Like, he shouldn't be complaining about that, Eric Lauer. I'm sorry. And then Schneider put him down with the pay grade comment, just pitch, which is the right response. Then he takes them on with tape all over his back, and the coaches don't even know what that's from. And like, it's crazy that that's the same guy who gladly grabbed the utility role a year ago and was very valuable to the effort. And then Heineman the other day is benched, bases loaded, 6th inning, pops one up, and the manager takes him out of the game. Why not? If you're going to do that, why not? Why didn't he just pinch hit for him with the bases loaded? Because the guys had 1 for 30 something in the last little while. And then he comes out of the game and he says, yeah, the manager's right. Best manager I've ever played for. But it doesn't seem like it's running as smoothly as it did a year ago.
Yeah, I'm going to guess he didn't pinch hit because he wanted Valenzuela to get a day, I guess, which I don't know why. He's a kid, and I'm sure he'd play every day if he could. But that really didn't make a lot of sense. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning was, but he clearly wasn't happy with him. But, hey, Griff, as you know, I mean, you win and everybody gets along real well, right? They're all playing well. If you don't win, there's usually guys underperforming and things aren't going so well. And, it's not, there's only so much this culture can, take care of everything. It's just, it's tough to hold a team together that's struggling in certain areas. So that's just normal, I guess. These are the things you go through. But unfortunately, you don't expect that out of your backup players.
Yeah.
So to speak. You know what I mean?
Well, Kirk, the report, and of course you get more detailed injury reports when the team goes to Tampa because Dunedin is right there and they spend the morning over at the complex. All the coaches and staff spend the morning over at the complex. And the report on Alejandro Kirk was getting ready to be able to swing the bat. That does not sound like next week.
No.
Well, when he does come back, would you suggest that Valenzuela might be the backup guy? And because you can't option Heineman, you could DFA him and nobody might want to pick up that contract, and then he could be sent to Buffalo and brought back up. But do you think Valenzuela, especially with his defensive superiority in throwing, might have earned himself a job so far as a backup?
Maybe. I'm going to guess they're going to want him to go down there and play every day, so to speak. And Heineman's obviously shown in the role he was in, he's fine. But that doesn't mean if things continue this way, if he doesn't hit, he doesn't play well. You might be right. I mean, Valenzuela brings more to the table in a backup. He brings that defensive role, and he does have a little juice every once in a while. So you could be right. I think they send him back down personally. Yeah. I think they want to have him develop. That's usually the way until maybe later in the year.
Right. But I think that in this situation, which they put themselves in by going to the World Series a year ago, you're not going, well, we want him to get more at bats. If he's a better player than the guy who's here at the major league level, as they try and give 2 starts a week to the backup catcher, that might be the determining factor. It's not like we want Valenzuela to develop and get his 400 at bats at AAA. It might be like he can do more for us here in the majors than can Tyler Heineman. So let's keep him.
Yeah, you could be right. And it depends, I suppose, where the team's at too, right? I mean, Kirk probably, like you said, he's not exactly close. So you're going to have more of an understanding where the club's sitting too. So you could be right. They may opt to do that. And like you said, I don't think anybody's racing to claim Tyler Heineman if they send him out, so to speak. So.
Yeah. Oh, here's another question. And we talk about last year's vibe and this year's vibe. How about when Nathan Lucas is ready? What do they do?
To me, he's more
He's been swinging the bat. He's been doing everything they want. Davis Schneider has done nothing.
Well, that's my answer.
He sees a lot of pitches, and he goes deep into counts, and he runs up the starter's pitch count. Then he strikes out or pops up or walks. One of the three.
No, that was my answer. I think Lucas, and I've said this forever, he offers more than Schneider. He doesn't play second base. I get that, but neither does Schneider. I think he offers more. I mean, will they do it? They love Davis in that clubhouse. They just love him. But to me, Lucas just brings more. He's a better hitter, a better defender.
Even before the Nathan Lucas decision, when Addison Barger comes back, you can't send anyone but an outfielder out because we've already talked all year about them always carrying too many outfielders, even if one's going to be a DH, George Springer in particular. But they're going to have to make a decision there. Do they send Pinango out? He's a left-handed hitter. Barger's a left-handed hitter. He's not going to get as many at-bats. There's a guy that you might want to see develop at AAA by getting more at-bats.
That's probably what they do, unless, of course, he keeps hitting 500.
Yeah, right.
Then you cannot do that. But so as soon as he goes into a little slump, which is coming, he's probably going.
And he does take more direct routes to the ball than Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah, right. He does.
Now, Ernie Clement, do you think he is as humble and lovable this year as he was last year as a utility guy? Now that he's done the whole banquet circuit in the off season, played golf in celebrity tournaments, banged the drum at a Sabres game,
doing the commercials,
become besties with the quarterback of the Bills.
Yeah.
Do you think he's that same guy? And now he's got a regular position. He's a regular second baseman, fills in at short when the other guy needs a rest. We're talking same vibe. This is just a vibe question. Does he have the same vibe as a regular who's been acknowledged on all the major U.S. networks as an emerging budding star?
Oh, I don't know if he's an emerging budding star, but yeah, I'll give Vernie a pass. I think he's so valuable to that club, and I think he's done what he's needed to do for the most part. I think Ernie's earned it, so to speak, and I think he's the one guy you can't live without on that team. Like I said, he just brings so much to the table, and I think he's still lovable in that clubhouse.
Yeah, here's the final one on the vibe question. Is Dalton Varsho simply a left-handed hitting Miles Straw?
Wow. That's a slightly different hitter, but I feel like his stock has gone down quite a bit. Like I said, we've talked about it. His outfield play is not the same, and he can't throw. So when you can't throw, you're taking away. He doesn't do a lot of things well. He has some power. I mean, he's a smart player. He's a good base runner, but if he can't throw, it really diminishes his value out there.
And it's amazing to me. It's amazing to see how often a weak arm is taken advantage of in the major leagues by just runners going first to third, home to second, first to home, that sort of thing. And we're seeing it more, or it's become more and more noticeable with Varsho since everybody knows that his arm is diminished from what it was before the injury last year.
And that's why they need some of these guys back badly. It's not just their offense, it's the defense. Like, as much as I'm not a big Barger guy as an outfielder, he's certainly better than what they're running out there. And obviously Kirk's significant. When you've got to have one bad outfielder, not two in the lineup. So the left field's fine, And if you have Lucas out there with Barger, it's a much better outfield. So
you gotta have one bad outfielder out there, which you can get away with. I mean, I remember Greg Luzinski in left field with the Phillies had a 1,000 fielding percentage at the end of the year because he never got to anything. Like the ball would stop rolling when it hit the fence and died, and he'd go get it and throw it in. Meanwhile, they had Gary Maddox and Big McBride or Gary Matthews in center and right.
Yeah.
And so they could get away with that,
Yeah.
Maddox would just play over a little bit or cover the ground that Luzinski should have been covering. But
that's true.
That 1,000 fielding percentage looked pretty good on him.
Yeah, it's like that's where you put your bad fielders, your Dave Kingmans and guys like that, right? I mean, forever. There they go.
So before we move on to rotation stuff, just going down the injuries, we said Kirk is about to swing a bat. That doesn't tell us anything. Barger back on Friday when they come home against the Angels, and then the Rays visit. So they'll have more of a chance against the Rays in Toronto than they're having in Tampa, I would believe. But not just the errors, like to the pitching staff, it's not just the errors that are being made, it's the plays not being made that aren't errors. And we see that a lot. Even Vlad is sort of, maybe his lack of power production is getting to him, but he's making plays that are very uncustomary Vlad plays when he was a Gold Glover.
Right. And, well, I mean, I always thought that Vlad being a Gold Glover was a bit aggressive anyways. And I mean, he's fine over there. He's like, he's certainly no Keith Hernandez or Mattingly and things like that. But yeah, I mean, the thing with Vladdy is it's historically he's got, and I'm not, you know me with the analytics and all that, but he definitely has the lowest launch angle in the game. That's just a fact. So it's hard to hit a lot of home runs when you hit line drives, which is why he hits so many hard ground balls. But he's a great hitter. There's no doubt about it. But if we're expecting 40 home runs, I'm not sure that's who he is. But you're expecting it for $500 million, right?
He was not even a power hitter per se in the minor leagues as he was coming up. He was a line drive 112 exit velocity guy.
Yeah.
And so why would anyone expect it to be more than that? The 1 year with his huge home run total was in a couple of minor league ballparks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I mean, he's a 300 hitter with lots and lots of doubles. And, if he's going to be a home run hitter, he's going to have to change his swing. That's just what's going to have to be. But
before we move on to the Blue Jays rotation and other American League rotations, there's just one. I was amused by the injury update on Max Scherzer that was given the first day in Tampa by John Schneider. And the update was, Max is starting to feel a little better. That does not seem like the most, there's no timing involved in that, which is perfect. It's perfect if you're looking for a guy to save bullets for the end of the year. But
yeah, exactly. I mean,
and like we've said all along, that was not a bad contract to sign because of what he meant in the dugout last year. The possibility that he might throw 15 to 20 starts, which I don't think he's going to do. But yeah, it was a $3 million deal. He's not going to reach very many of his bonus incentives that start at 55 innings, so he's not going to reach those. But
yeah, I don't think he cares.
But yeah, no, he's still in baseball. His daughter learned how to write convincing letters to organizations about getting her dad a job. It's all good. Now the Blue Jays rotation. Let's talk about what between now and the All-Star break you would do. Say people are getting healthier. Between now and the middle of July, how would you set up your 5-man starting rotation? We got Gausman, Cease, and Yesavage. We agree at top 3. But then you need 2 more out of Corbin, who's a dark horse, came out of nowhere. It's like that guy in the Kentucky Derby who came from the back of the pack and won.
Tempo, yeah.
Lauer, Jose Barrios, and what do you do with a problem like Barrios? Right. And the bullpen. I like a bullpen start, using off days to sort of minimize that. What would you do to maximize the Blue Jays rotation?
Oh boy, where's Shane Bieber?
Yeah, well, I don't even think Shane Bieber was updated.
No, that tells you something, right? Yeah. Obviously, they had a conversation with Barrios that went well beyond his just general health and where he's at, because I'd like to see him. If Barrios is ready to go, he's in there for me. And then for now, I'm Patrick Corbin. I think he just brings a veteran fifth starter mentality that fits for that team. He's not relied on to be the be all, and then Lauer can be that swing guy. That's how I draw it up. But I don't know, man. What's your vibe on Barrios that you got from this?
Yeah, I mean, we know and we've discussed to death the wedge that was driven between the two sides at the World Series when Jose went home rather than stay with the team. But they need him. They need him now. And I think, anyone else, they would be trumpeting the upside of his rehab appearances. But with him, they're going, he went from 94 to 93 to 92.5 on his fastball. Like, you never hear that from a team that's on the side of a pitcher who's rehabbing.
Right.
But I think he needs to be that fifth starter. I agree with you, and I agree with a lot of people that Eric Lauer's ideal role would be to be ready after Barrios if Barrios can't get through it, especially early on in the experiment of bringing him back as a fifth starter. And to me, you roll with that because Corbin is in there. So Corbin, there's a left-hander, he's a change of everything that opponents see. It's and then Barrios. To me, that's what
you throw Corbin till his arm falls off, right? It's not like you got anything invested.
Paid him $1 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I like how we throw that around. And that's it.
Yeah.
But so now we agree that it's Gausman and Cease at the top of the order. Looking around the American League, give me a top 5 of top duos in team starting rotation, the top 2 in American League starting rotations, and where the Blue Jays fit in. You give me 1 to 5. I'll give you my 1 to 5.
Well, I think the Yankees are first, Fried, Schlittler, and then Gausman, Cease come up second. I think Cease, he's still, we're talking about elite here. There's still questions about his consistency a little bit. To me, then I go Seattle with Gilbert, Kirby, Texas with DeGrom and Eovaldi. And for me, my 5th, I've got Cleveland, not because of Tanner Bibby, but because of Parker Messick. Gavin Williams and Parker Messick are pretty darn good duo. So you could throw them at the top if you wanted. But that's so I go Yankees, Toronto, Seattle, Texas, Cleveland for me. Who do you got?
I start with the Yankees. Preseason and spring training, I didn't have them up there, but they're pitching so well, and they still have Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon on the way back. But Fried and Schlittler is really dynamic. But I got number 2 as Logan Gilbert and George Kirby. I think that Seattle still has the best young, and they go to Brian Wu and some other guys in there. They got one veteran guy in their top 5. I like those guys a lot because they throw a lot of pitches. They throw a lot of games, and they've got tremendous stuff. But my number 3 is Gausman and Cease. They'll move up if Cease can go deeper into games. Gausman seemed to lose a little velocity in the last couple of starts, maybe in the last start. So we'll see how that works out. But these guys take the ball every 5th day, and you can build around them. And they're effective, and they're good. My fourth is also Texas with Eovaldi and DeGrom. But my fifth, I got to go with our guy, Kikuchi is the number 2 guy, Angels. I love Soriano. I saw him pitch a couple times.
Wow, he's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm throwing Kikuchi as the dark horse backup second guy. I mean, I hadn't even thought of your view of Cleveland, but that's a pretty good call also.
Yeah.
But, the top 3 or 4 sort of stand alone, and the Jays are right in that mix. So if they can get Yesavage going and find the 4 and 5 guys that can be effective, then of course have injuries healing steadily and creating a lineup that is deeper in the defense that is better, I think that they'll be fine.
Yep.
Well, before we wrap up, let's go to a little MLB news here. See, Jays are starting to make minor league moves. They've sent Arjun Nimala and right-hander Austin Cates from Vancouver to AA New Hampshire. So the cards are starting to fall. The dominoes are being moved. And, it'll be interesting to see where shortstop lands with the Blue Jays. They got some good shortstop position prospects. But, there's plenty of room around the diamond for guys like that who don't make that cut as the future shortstop of the Blue Jays. Because they're moving guys up, and the complex league is starting, and so you've got guys that are going to be placed somewhere along the line, and injuries come into play there. Shortstop Arjun Nimala, what do you think of him?
Well, I think I'm not even sure this is something to be so celebrated. I think he needs to be at that level. Like it's time. You know what I mean? We'll see how he handles it. The question's always been a swing and miss. He's got power. He's a good shortstop. So I think this is just what the plan was the whole time, right? Let him get his feet comfortable again in Vancouver. I mean, he's hit for power, but he hasn't hit for average down there. It's not like he's hitting 340 in Vancouver. I just think this was probably a scripted plan for the kid.
Yeah.
Get his feet wet, get him some at-bats, and then we'll move him up, and let's see how he handles the next level. So let's see. He's certainly talented. He's got lots of tools, but, then that opens things up. You got JoJo, right?
There's the main competition right there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's a good problem to have if you're the Blue Jays.
Yeah, especially that position.
Yeah. Randall Grichuk released by the Yankees, signed by the White Sox. His career sort of resembles Kevin Pillar in that he had all of these. They say, well, when he reaches arbitration, when he reaches free agency, he's going to, cash in, and all of a sudden he's sort of bouncing around now at this point. And he always had flaws in his game, and I guess really peaked early in his career. It's nice to see him. He's a great guy. Nice to see him landing another job. Anthony Volpe, he's like the Drew Bledsoe of the Yankees.
That's right.
He gets hurt, then he gets healthy, and he doesn't get his job back.
Right.
Do you think he should? Do you think a guy who gets hurt is a starter, won a Gold Glove? Was he Rookie of the Year? He might have been with the Yankees. Do you think he should get his job back?
Normally, yes. I think in this instance, I think I get. It's not like he's a 1-year guy. He's been around, and his play declined significantly last year. And I think he had a lot of trouble dealing with it because it affected his defense, right? He was not a good defender last year from what he used to be. So I think it's an easy move to go. The kid that's here now is got the job. You got to go find it a little bit. So I think in this instance it's fine, and I give the Yankees credit for doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the Jose Caballero was a throwaway deal really at the deadline last year.
Yeah.
And now he's beat Volpe out momentarily for the job. And they're talking about moving Anthony Volpe in the minor leagues and having him play some second base, see how he can do there with the Jazz Chisholm headed for free agency. And, Chisholm also can play multiple positions. So who knows? Tarik Skubal.
Oof.
What do you think? Tarik Skubal, arthroscopic surgery for bone chips in his left, or bone chips in his left elbow. And they're saying 2 or 3 months, and that's a minimum, I think. In his free agent year, do you think it'll affect his market value?
Not at all. Not in the least.
Me neither.
No. He's already, it's not like you said, it's not a shoulder. There's no reason to believe he won't come back as strong as ever. Unless there's something they don't know and see until they get in there. But I think he's probably smart to do it, right? So he is ready to go next year.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
going to cash in, man. I wouldn't be afraid of that at all.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets back and helps the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, if they go to the postseason, then he pitches like 3 or 4 times in September. He doesn't really have to do that, but if they go to the postseason, they'll need him, and he will want to do that. And so I think that's the right thing for him to do is have that taken care of. But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to affect his market value whatsoever. He's proven himself.
Yeah.
One more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Just in observing the first 10 days of the Phillies firing Rob Thompson and the Red Sox firing Alex Cora, the Phillies seem to be responding to Don Mattingly. Red Sox not so much to Chad Tracy. And I believe that a new manager who has never been in a major league dugout until he's given the job is at a disadvantage. Mattingly's been there as a player, as a manager, as a coach. Do you think that could have been a factor or will be a factor with the Red Sox is that Chad Tracy has never been there?
Yeah, and I think there's distinct differences in those situations. I think there's a culture problem in Boston, and I think that's going to be tougher to overcome than the veteran guys that you got in Philadelphia. That are probably really, really happy Don Mattingly is the guy to replace. Not that I'm sure they loved Robbie too, but I don't think that would play as well in that clubhouse either. I think having Mattingly comes in just lets those guys go to work, and he could take some of the heat off. Maybe from front office to dugout. That's what Don's strength will be. I think there's real issues in that Red Sox clubhouse, and not only is it Chad Tracy, it's the 4 other guys that came with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and everybody knows they're an extension of Craig Breslow, which no, it is. Which is kind of the issue in that organization. So. I think they're different situations. I think it's tough. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a tough go for Chad Tracy.
It seems like in this current atmosphere environment for professional sports teams, being GM can sometimes be a tough position with fans and players. Apparently. Anyway, that'll do it for today's Exit Philosophy, and we will be back at you probably at the end of the Angels series when Addison Barger will have hit 3 home runs on the weekend, and everything will be right with the world. So we'll be back at you. We'll be back at you by probably Monday coming week. And thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And we will, and thanks to Mal for co-hosting, and we will be back at you next week.